Has Chief Justice John Roberts already made up his mind against the Chinese government in the TikTok appeal? It's going to be heard on the 10th of January. Well, based on his annual report and comments about foreign interference and the threat to our democracy of foreign interference, how is he going to possibly rule with an open mind when it comes to the Chinese government owning TikTok, trying to undermine our national security? I'm Michael Popak. You're on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Let's get right down to it. Every year, Chief Justice John Roberts has the opportunity, one really, to talk to the American people with an annual report, which is basically a survey or an overview or a year in review of the judiciary that he heads as the Chief Justice. Now, he's ignored all the things that are really on everybody's mind, which is the ethical scandals at the court, how the immunity decision has overturned 200 years of precedent about the co-equal branches of government and checks and balances, justices flying the flag of insurrection and the like. And instead, he focused this on interference and the interference with and the independence of the judiciary and its importance within our constitutional republic, particularly in advance of the TikTok appeal, which they took on an emergency basis. The justices slammed it in for a Jan 10th hearing because there is a forced sale of TikTok to a non-Chinese buyer required by the 118th Congress, signed by Joe Biden. This forced sale of TikTok is because TikTok is not, you're just not watching it and creating content for it. They're watching you. And the they is ByteDance is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And they are using their algorithms, their information. Every time you do a survey, every time you do an email, every time you do, hey, take a photo of yourself. What do you think that'll look like in when you're 50 years old, and then they get all your biometric data and they're using it to spy on Americans. Now, Americans don't like to admit that. Donald Trump doesn't like to admit it. He's fallen in love with TikTok, mainly because he's got a major donor who is an investor in TikTok. That's why Donald Trump flipped from "it must be sold" at the end of his first term to "I like it. That's where all the bros hang out and help get me elected. Barron Trump loves it. My son loves it. I love TikTok now. I have a soft spot for it." Yeah, okay. I have a soft spot for making sure our national security isn't compromised too. Now, John Roberts is going to be presiding over this 9-justice panel on oral argument. And the key issue is it constitutional? Are there due process violations? Are there First Amendment violations by forcing a Chinese entity to be sold and get out of America, to ban and bar it? So you have sort of this quasi-First Amendment argument, but really not the Chinese government's First Amendment right. I think we all can agree the Chinese government doesn't have a First Amendment right. But they're claiming in their briefs, TikTok, that there's 140 million Americans that have First Amendment rights to use their platform. That's not how commercial speech and that kind of platform use, nor do they have standing, I think, to support 140 million worth of people's First Amendment rights. On the other hand, you've got the Department of Justice and the Solicitor General of the Biden administration reminding the Supreme Court that these are national security interests, intelligence issues, keeping our country safe. China doesn't allow an American spy platform to be used by the youth and the adults of China. So why are we doing it? That's sort of the argument. And that they have the right and that Congress has acted. There is a law on the books. That's the other missing piece here. There is a law on the books, law of the land, to force this sale. Now, the reason the Supreme Court sped this whole thing up and is doing an oral argument so quickly on the 10th of January is because there's a forced sale, I think, on the 19th. Now, Donald Trump doesn't want that, right? So he lobbed in a friend of the court brief as a stranger he's like a drive-by non-party to the case, and he's asking for relief. He's asking the court to stay their decision-making, not make any rulings, and give him time to act. Totally inappropriate. Written and signed by the future Solicitor General under Donald Trump, John Sauer, currently one of his criminal defense lawyers, saying, we're not involved in the case. We're not yet the president. We're not a party to this case, but we have a position that needs to be recognized. I don't think that's how that works. with the separation of powers and the fact that you're not even president yet. Now, John Roberts may have already made up his mind. Listen to this quote from John Roberts' own annual report. And nothing is written by accident. This isn't a slip of the pen or a slip of the computer. This is on purpose. He knew TikTok was up in front of him when he published this on the 1st of January. So this is what he wrote on page 7. But much more is needed, and on a coordinated national scale, not only to counter traditional disinformation, but also to confront a new and growing concern from abroad. In recent years, hostile foreign nations or foreign state actors have accelerated their efforts to attack all branches of our government, including the judiciary. In some instances, these outside agents feed false information into the marketplace of ideas. For example, bots distort judicial decisions using fake or exaggerated narratives to foment discord within our democracy. In other cases, hackers steal information, often confidential and highly sensitive, for nefarious purposes, sometimes for private benefits and other times for the use of state actors themselves. Either way, because these actors distort our judicial system in ways that compromise the public's confidence, he wrote, in our processes and outcomes, we must, as a nation, publicize the risks and take all appropriate measures to stop them. That sounds a lot like somebody who's already made up their mind about the Chinese government not using nefarious methods to undermine our democracy through misinformation in the marketplace of ideas. TikTok is, just for those that don't know, TikTok is not just, young people doing silly dances and flash mobs. There's legal commentary on there. There's trolls on there. There's brainwashing going on there. There's people that kids and other adults think are influencers, but are really Russian trolls, Iranian trolls, Chinese trolls. Yes, that's what's going on TikTok. And so here, Roberts is saying, just 9 days before he's sitting in oral argument, that we have to be very careful about the marketplace of ideas being polluted and co-opted by foreign agents trying to do us harm. I think, and I'll come back and tell you here on Legal AF and on our show Unprecedented about the Supreme Court, I think that the Chinese government, ByteDance, the company that they own and control, and their lawyers are going to be in for a hard, rough, hot bench come the 10th of October. Even MAGA, I think, thinks that infiltration of our national security and compromising it by foreign actors like Russia, China, Iran is a bad thing, not a good thing. And Donald Trump, and I think they're going to reject, I hope they're going to reject, and I think they will, they're going to reject this invitation, this entreaty by Donald Trump. Stop it. Stop the world. I want to get off. I'm the businessman. I'm going to cut a deal. Yeah. How's that going for you? I'm going to cut a deal with Russia for the ceasefire. Ceasefire plan rejected. Bombing of Ukraine on Christmas Day of their infrastructure occurs. Right? Everybody is reacting to Donald Trump in ways that show they have no respect for him, that he's completely irrational, and he can't cut a deal. Right? Cut a deal for what? Is he going to cut a deal, Donald Trump, to put TikTok over in Truth Social, the Trump-owned property, or broker a deal with the investors that he knows? Is that what he's trying to do? And line his pockets in violation of the emoluments clause? Now, I know who John Roberts is talking about when he talks about hackers, because there's been more leaks at the United States Supreme Court of draft opinions and internal memos than I've ever remember in the prior 50 years of me following it. Okay? He's had the Dobbs decision about a woman's right to choose leaked 3 months before it was actually published in draft form. Other internal caucuses and discussions, always private, among the Supreme Court, leaked, hacked. That's what he's worried about. So for John Roberts, though, I'm going to come back here and tell you, after I listen to the oral argument about the TikTok in a few days, if I'm right about him purposely publishing to signal his position. And if I'm an advocate representing ByteDance / Chinese government, and I read that, you better figure out a way to appeal to John Roberts and get him over to your side, because right now, it looks like he's not there. I'm going to continue to follow it all on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. We got a big blue button. It says subscribe. I think it's blue. Help us grow this pro-democracy channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. Help us get to our 500,000 subscriber goal, which we're going to get there in the first month or two of the new year with your help. Until that time, I'm Michael Popak, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.